What's the most NSFW experience you witnessed right in front of your eyes? I wasn't there for this, but my coworkers were at a lunch and a woman pulled out her boob and squirted milk at a very high-ranking employee across the table. Walked in on two coworkers having an affair. He later cornered me and threatened me. She is my brother-in-law's best friend's wife, and I've known him a lot longer than she has. I reported it, mainly the threat, to HR and talked to my sister about it to see if she and her husband wanted to talk to him about it. I got written up by the VP and the conduct team of where I worked because I told my sister about it. Allegedly I put the woman at risk because, and I quote conduct, her husband is most likely going to beat her over this. I've known him for over 30 years, he doesn't have a violent bone in his body, and if he showed any signs, he wouldn't still be good friends with my sister and her husband. A few years later, did he ever beat her? Nope. Did they go to counseling? Yes. A woman on train pooped, a hard shit ball which just dropped out of her gown, which she proceeded to pick up smell then throw out of the window. She then started talking to a man which soon turned to them fondling one another. Soon after police showed up, dropped them at the next station where railway police force took them. Because they were clearly unstable, so possibly to the nearest asylum. In a club in Berlin, Germany. It was quite sex positive. A woman in her 30s sat down next to me on a weird chair and we started chatting. At some point during the conversation a man kneeled down in front of her and started to fist her, consensually. She didn't break eye contact. She didn't even flinch. She just continued the conversation like normal. I had no idea how to deal with that and didn't want to be rude, so we continued the conversation and I tried to ignore the man who had half his arm in her vagina. Driving Uber, I caught a dude jerking off in my car. Turned around and he had his dick in one hand and his phone in the other hand recording it. It kind of stunned me at how bold he was. I kicked him out and still charged him for the entire ride. This was one of the reasons I bought a dual-facing dashcam. A girl blowing a guy at a bus stop at like 2 a.m. She then threw up and continued sucking his dick. Never change, Glasgow. Edit, for everyone worried it was them. It was in June of 2013. I was the designated driver for a group of friends going to an Allman Brothers concert. A pregnant woman in front of me was dressed in just cut-off overalls, no shirt, bra, panties, or shoes. The overalls were unbuttoned at the sides to accommodate her belly, so pretty much everything was showing. She was chugging Jack Daniels and dancing half in the aisle. At about the third-hour mark of whipping post she leaned to the side and puked on the people dancing in the aisle and then grabbed her boyfriend by his hair and planted a big sloppy kiss on his mouth. Being sober when everyone else, if drunk and high, can make you lose faith in humanity. Worked at an aluminum plant. One of the mills was down for a few days. I went to the pulpit to sleep and chill since I didn't have shit to do. Walk in and two of my coworkers, both men, both very much married, banging away. I just turned around and left. The rest of the time I worked with them was awkward for sure. I was in a train compartment sitting by a window, it was broad daylight. There were two young students, boy and girl. Suddenly the girl opened the guy's fly and started to jack him off. I did not know how to react, as nothing like that happened to me before. Also they blocked my way to the corridor. They did not even close the curtains, so the conductor girl passing by saw them too, and apparently did not know how to react as well. Then they got off on the very next stop. I think they did not have a ticket. Driving on an interstate highway about 75 miles per hour when I see the car in the left lane start to drive a little erratically. As I passed the car on the right I saw what looked like the male passenger finger banging the woman driving, who looked like she was having an orgasm. I quickly got away from them to avoid an accident. Edit, for all those who are asking, this happened in New York State around 2010. The only thing I can say about the couple was it looked like they were in their late 50s or early 60s. Watched a grown man pull a mobile phone out of his ass. I was on holiday with my wife in the Canary Islands. We were on the beach all day and we made the mistake of taking a shortcut through the sand dunes. It was a hot, sweaty and tiring walk and surprisingly long walk. Then we wandered into a corn chute. Two light young ladies getting it on. Full XXX rated content. Nobody batted an eyelid except to motion us around the back of the camera to keep us out of view. So we just kept on walking to the hotels. Very, very surreal. My gym is on the second floor and has big windows facing the parking lot. One day I was standing at the window catching my breath and happened to look down. There, in one of the parked cars, were two of the other members completely naked and going to town. The woman's face wasn't visible, but she had a distinctive tattoo, so I immediately knew who they were. On the plus side, working out was really paying off for them as they both looked quite fit. Early in my career, I worked in a research facility. One of the guys who worked for me was job adjacent to the maintenance guys. He was a machinist. So he had access to parts of the building that weren't available to most. We were up in the penthouse, which was a big room with all the HVAC and stuff, but also where we kept a lot of spare equipment. "Come here," and hands me a pair of binoculars. He points to a far corner of the parking lot and lo and behold there's one of our VPs and his caddy banging one of the department heads. They were married, but not to each other. The rumors were already flying about those two. Anyway, I ask him, "Wait a minute. Why do you have binoculars? There's always people ducking in the parking lot. So yeah, assume you're always being watched." Maintenance guys especially are usually so low-key and people just kind of ignore them, but they know everything. Nature was calling, bad, so I stopped at a McDonald's in an unfamiliar neighborhood. I walk in and ask about the bathroom. Without any words, they point towards the bathroom. I enter the bathroom and am directly facing the side of the disability stall. On the missing bottom section of the stall you can clearly see two men ducking the shit out of each other, accompanied by their yells of pleasure and skin slapping. I nope the duck out of there, but as I walk back down the hall to the bathroom, a huge security guard bumps into me and asks if I've seen two men. I point and say they're in there ducking. He shoves past me, walks quickly to the bathroom. I run out of that McDonald's and have to settle for the gas station across the street. I went to Seoul with a few friends one year and we ended up in a kind of expat bar. A friend of a friend who taught English there showed up with this super drunk American girl. American girl was being really obnoxious and aggressively flirting with this Korean guy at the bar. At one point my friend nudges me and points, and the guy is very obviously fingering her right in the booth in front of everyone, and she's moaning like she's in a corno. It was actually really loud in the bar and so not everyone noticed it at first, but then as we all slowly did it became really awkward as we didn't know whether to get up and leave them at the table or not. We kind of wondered if she was too drunk to realize she was in public and being so loud. The guy was also drunk AF and was just staring down her shirt, lol. Sometimes when I'm drunk I do embarrassing things, but I can't say I can top that. Corporate campus, 10 plus multi-story buildings. There was an unused storage room at the top floor of one of the buildings. My team had been periodically cleaning it out to use as a project staging area. Until one day we head up and find a couple on top of the desk full on ducking. Issue was the guy was engaged to another employee at the company. They did end up getting married, but he left the company shortly after the incident. Both women still work here. Edit, a few additional details from the comment the fiancé found out that day. I wasn't the one to tell her as one of the other witnesses was closer to her. As to HR and management, we cared more about their relationship than HR policies and kept our mouths shut. I was asked about it from other employees but refused to gossip. No one from HR or management officially asked me. I can only assume the ensuing conversations between the couple, but he found a new position outside the company weeks later. They stayed together and married a year later. It was the Friday evening of Jazz Fest in New Orleans. I remember it was Friday because so had work and tickets to go on Saturday. I head down the corner bar, which is across town from the fest. Within minutes after I get there, this is this randy, sunburned couple who come in hooked at the mouth. Just tongue blasting each other's face hole. They peel off long enough to order a drink and head to an open table that's under the dartboard. The four guys actively playing were like, "Don't sit there," but they shrugged it off and say anyway. The guys kind of looked at each other and kept throwing darts. My thought was that would encourage them to move. They didn't. The guy makes a move and starts fingering the woman, and the bartender yells at them to take it outside. The woman finally stands up after being asked several times to knock it off. Just as she's standing, one of the guys throws his dart and hit her right in the ear hole. It was sticking out of the side of her head like a prop. She screams this pain-shocked wild scream and runs outside. The bartender called the paramedics, but the couple was gone by the time they arrived. Wear earplugs at Jazz Fest. My friend asked me to drive him and his GF around the hinterlands so he could duck her in the back seat, as they apparently had no place else to go, and, oh, hell, I don't know the reason. We were in high school and it made sense at the time. Anyway, I was chauffeuring them around the remote country roads while they got progressively hotter and heavier in the back. I resisted looking in the rearview mirror because the interest I had in seeing his GF sans clothing was more than offset by the lack of interest I had in seeing my dude that way. But after a few minutes, she mumbled, "That's not it." A few seconds later, a little more assertively, "That's not it," and then again and again, like 5 or 6 times. Finally, she sits up and just shouts at him, "That's not it." He sticks his head into the front seat and in exasperation asks me, "Dude, do you want to try?" All I can find is her asshole. I politely declined, and the two of them got dressed and sat as far from one another as possible while I drove them back to the keg party from which we'd originally departed. She wisely broke up with him the next morning. I was at my birthday party with a girl who I was dating at the time. For context, she had been advised by her doctor not to drink, because she had attempted suicide in the past while blackout drunk by taking a bottle of Tylenol. Her late fiancé died in bed next to her from sleep apnea complications, and it understandably sent her into a profound depression. Knowing this tragedy, I had tried to be as supportive as possible. With that out of the way, I can paint this lovely picture. I didn't even notice that she had gotten her hands on a drink until she started grabbing my arm and loudly telling me she wanted to duck. Mind you, my brother and several of my friends are all in the room. It was initially kind of funny, and I was trying to tell her that we have to wait, but she then got really aggressive. She laid down on the couch and pulled up her dress in front of the party, vagina fully exposed, and started playing with herself, loudly asking me to duck her. Everyone at the party was obviously stunned and hoping the moment would end. I tried to cover her up and tell her she was being inappropriate, and she started yelling, "Duck you. Don't tell me what to do." My friend's girlfriend finally got her to settle down and cover up her snatch. She started to pass out shortly after. I carried her into my friend's room and closed the door. Everyone kind of laughed in relief, and we had a fun rest of the night. I awoke on the couch with her in a robe next to me. I was still annoyed with her, so I got up to move to the other couch when I saw my buddy scrubbing the carpet in the hall. Come to find out, she had shit all over his floor. She apparently rolled around in it and dragged herself across the hall, leaving a snail trail to the bathroom. The bathroom looked like a shit murder scene. Shit handprints smeared on the walls and all. She had evidently tried to rinse off, put a robe on, and snuggled up with me. I woke her up and had to inform her of what she did and asked her to leave. She was horrified. I felt bad, but she had already peed in my bed and was generally causing some issues, so this was more than the last straw. I didn't hang out with her again, bless her soul. TLDR, a girl openly exposed her vagina at my birthday party while yelling for me to duck her, and then she shit all over the place in the night.